for me, I want to be put down for my health reasons and everything else. To me, existing is not living. And I'm basically bedridden. And I've been telling people over the last few years that if I had been born with 4 legs instead of 2, I'd have easily been put down by now. And yet we can be humane to animals, but not humans.
And that is a powerful argument, and I do completely understand that. Can I ask you what your condition is?
Well, it's mainly a relapse of my ME, but I've been going downhill since my wife of 32 years died 3 years ago. And I have no reason to live anymore. I can't function like I'd like to, and a lot of people can't understand that. But
you see, some people would say, Cliff, you've picked up the phone to phone me this evening, and I'm very grateful to you for doing that. So therefore, you have a quality of life if you can do something like that. Do you understand that argument?
Not really. I can still understand what's going on around me, but I can't physically do what I should be able to do to function properly.
Yeah.
So if that makes any sense, and I'm sure that some of your listeners will agree.
Well, I think it makes total sense. But then again, I could say to you, I'm 62 years old. There are things that I used to be able to do that I can't do now. Now, clearly, I do have a quality of life, given what I do for a living, given the life that I have, and I certainly wouldn't want to end my life anytime soon. But as you get older, clearly there are things that change in your life and are very frustrating. Now, the changes that you've undergone are because of the condition that you have. But I mean, I don't know enough. Have you been diagnosed to be terminally ill?
No. Even though I've had a number of heart attacks and strokes recently, no, they don't consider me terminally ill.
So you wouldn't be able to take advantage of this legislation if it did go through anyway?
No.
But you think you ought to be, basically?
Yeah. I think anybody who is in my state or worse should be able to have that access.
See, somebody's just sent me a message. Jason says, from this caller, another powerful one tonight, I'm getting that it's all about dignity. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. Yeah.
Because I get the sense that because you're bedridden, you feel you're not leading the kind of dignified life that you would want to lead.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not able to perform as I would like to, and as I should be able to do, I would like to have the option of being able to just end my life.
How old are you?
I'm going to be 71 in June.
And is it also partly that you just feel that you've got nothing to look forward to?
Yeah, there's nothing to look forward to anymore.
Apart from all my radio shows, Cliff.
Well, I have to admit that tonight is the first night that I've heard your radio show.
Is it?
Yeah. I just happened to be switching through the channels, and I ran across it.
Well, I'm delighted to have lured you into the radio show. I hope you will listen, obviously, in future. And I mean, I said that to introduce a little bit of lightness into the conversation, because it's a dark subject, isn't it? And it's a subject that a lot of people find difficult to talk about, because no one wants to visualize their own mortality. No one wants really to talk about their own death. I mean, I remember my mother would never, ever want to have a conversation about death, even when we all knew that her death was near. She just didn't, it wasn't something she wanted to contemplate, to sort of plan or anything. And each individual has a very different approach to these things. And I'm really grateful to you, Cliff, for being so honest in phoning us tonight. And I hope you can find some hope and something to look forward to. But I completely understand where you're coming from. And if I was in your position, I'm pretty sure I would feel very similar to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, thank you. Anyway.
All right. Cheers, Cliff.
Okay.
Thank you. I mean, what a powerful call. What a thing to do, to be so honest. And that's what we want, isn't it, in these conversations, for people to be honest. And even people who are on the opposite side of the debate to me have to understand where people like Cliff are coming from. Now, he wouldn't be able to use this legislation in his position. But have we got a right to stop people who would come under this legislation, people who've been diagnosed as being terminally ill with only 6 months or less to live? And I completely understand that's not always an exact science. Have we really got a right to say, no, we know better than you? Jay's in Mallorca. Hello, Jay.
Hi, Ian. Good evening.
Hi.
Thanks for having me on. My situation's very unique, but I think it sort of emphasises where this could all end. First of all, I'm not against this assisted dying. I think people should be able to make the choice. I sadly lost my son, Balram, a year and a half ago at the age of 30 years old. Very, very tragically. But through medical notes now that I've received, statements have been made that he may have had days to live, but wasn't given the treatment that he needed for him to survive. And it's then moved on beyond that to when we're talking about the legal system helping, to a coroner requesting from the hospital a statement for treatment and care my baby received. Mm. That statement was riddled with false statements. It resulted in the coroner saying there's no culpability. It resulted in saying there'd be no inquest. And that would be it. Now, I fought strongly to have an inquest, which we are having on the 2nd and 3rd of June this year. But I just think that we have to be so careful, because how these things are initiated, in a matter of weeks, goalposts appear to be changing. What's going to happen in a number of years down the line, as has happened with my son and others, who's developmentally delayed? We were his advocate, his mother and I. And, we're absolutely heartbroken. Our baby was taken away in the way that he was. And it was some form of assisted dying that others decided it was time for him to go. But he yet didn't want to. He was born with half a heart and was given less than 2 weeks to live, and he lived till 30 years old. How do we know that the 3 days that they said he may have lived couldn't have been longer?
So, I mean, I really don't want you to get upset over this, Jay, because obviously it brings back horrible memories. But when you say that they say he could have lived for another few days, so what happened at that point?
Well, basically, my son needed diuretics because of fluid retention. And oral diuretics wouldn't work. Ones you take orally through the mouth, he needed intravenous ones. And that's what he needed for him to offload the fluids from his lungs. Now, because of the situation existing that we couldn't get those diuretics at home in the form of intravenous, he was discharged to come home with oral diuretics. They failed. So I rang back and literally begged. I even said, my son is dying. Please, can you readmit him? And the answer was no. No, carry on trialing the drug that had failed. Now, in a witness statement from the consultant, she actually says, yes, the IV would have been better for him, but it would have only been a matter of days. And I think what gave you the right to make that decision, that it may have been just a matter of days? I formed a foundation for Balaram called Patients' Lives Matter. I've been on TV, 5 or 6 times, and been on newspapers and whatnot, because I'm trying to advocate for other people to say, it sounds good at the time. And like I said, I'm not against it. I think there's many, many reasons that people should have that right. And if it's governed in the correct way, should be implemented. But I just don't know. I really don't know how we will ever achieve that, because with what happened to Balaram, the system failed dramatically. And it's resulted in absolute trauma for my family, for us, seeing our baby die in front of our own eyes. And then the aftermath of the statements like I've just said, that, well, he may have lived, but it would be a matter of days.
And you see, that's the issue, isn't it? That you have the trauma at the time and the grief that you go through. And when you when you know that something went wrong within the system, so you then spend the next year, 2 years, 3 years fighting it and trying to get, not restitution, because you can't, but at least trying to get justice. And you say, well, the inquest is in June, so that's several months away, so it all goes on. And in a way, that's what the system depends on, because I remember 12 years ago when my mother died, it was in different circumstances to you, but she died as a result of decisions that were made, which we were not told about as her family. And when she died, I thought, I knew things had gone wrong. And I and my sisters sort of thought, well, do we take this further? But I think we almost, without even overtly discussing it, all decided that, well, we couldn't go through the trauma of months, if not years, of trying to get some sort of justice. And then I interviewed a Labour MP called Anne Clwyd, whose husband had died in very similar circumstances to my mother's. And she was going hammer and tong to get justice. And I thought, you know what? This good on her. This is what I should have done. And I then did. And at least the hospital in the end admitted that they failed my mother. And that's all I wanted them to do. So I wish you luck in your quest for justice, Jay, because it is important, and maybe whatever comes out of this, it may help other people, and that's all you can do at the moment, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I'm sort of advocating for a law called Balaram's Law, and it's a very, very simple law. And basically it says that every medical institute needs to be independently regulated by a single body. I have got issues with the coroner, with the police, with GMC, with CQC, with PHSO, with the Parliamentary Health Service Ombudsman. Everybody shunts me from pillar to post. And I said, you can shunt me as long as you want, because I'm not going to let it lie. I cannot bring my baby back, but there's no way on God's earth I'm going to sit back and let anybody else suffer when it's not necessary, and it shouldn't have happened. So I'll say it again, the patient's lives matter is there because of that. Patients' lives do matter. People do matter. And I'm very proud of what we have in our NHS. My son was here 30 years because of them. Sadly, he's no longer here because of the system. And I think that's where my biggest worry is, that I think it is the right thing for so many people. But the way the system is, it's there to be taken advantage of, and people sometimes do, and it results in absolute catastrophe. And look at this, in 3 weeks' time, the goalposts are changing. And people say it's all right, people say it's wrong. Oh, we're not even past it yet.
Jay, I could spend the rest of this hour reading out all of the texts and WhatsApp messages that I'm getting on my screen in response to what you said, but I'm going to read one of them. It's from Billy, who says, I just wanted to say that I've never cried before listening to the radio. Thank you to your caller for being so brave as to come on the radio to share his personal story. I'm so sorry to hear what he's had to go through. Barbara's in Ipswich. Hello, Barbara.
Oh, hello. Thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to say this bill must go through. It has to go through. I have been diagnosed with malignant mesothelioma, that's how you say it. In other words, asbestos-related through I don't know what. I've obviously got it in my lungs from somewhere. They're looking into it, but I have been given 3 months. And I wonder if anybody realises just how that hits you. When someone says to you, well, you've probably got just 3 months, every minute of every day you wake up and that's all you can think of. And I think this is just so wrong. It's torture. It isn't living, it's torture. And to look at my son's face whenever he comes in and to check on me or to speak to me, he is just breaking his heart. It's not fair. And I just think, I have already been told that there is no care here where we live because we live in a rural area, and I would have to go into a hospice or a hospital. And I don't. I just want to stay home. I just want to have an injection and go to sleep. That's all. My life, I haven't got a life. All I'm doing is tormenting myself. I'm waking up and thinking about it.
Are you in pain?
Yes, I'm in pain. I'm on morphine. And the hospital's been wonderful. They're still letting me have chemo to try and hold it, but they said it's not curable. It's one of the worst cancers that you can get. Most painful, and they've told me what to expect, and it isn't nice. And anybody that can say, well, this is so-and-so and so-and-so and gabbling on about what this one thinks and the government thinks, they want to really think what it really feels like. It's horrible. It's a nightmare.
And when we hear people on the other side of the argument say, yes, but if we had better palliative care, that's the solution to this. What do you say to them?
There is none. I've already been told there's no palliative care. I live in an area where there is none. And I'm going to have to go somewhere, a hospital, if there's room, or a hospice. As they've already said, there's nobody that can come out this far. Unfortunately, fortunately, I love it here, but now this has happened. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I will have no care, no palliative care.
And as you say, you don't want to inflict an extra burden on your son or maybe other members of your family, but in the end, they're the ones that are going to care for you.
I know, it's awful. I did have 2 sons. My youngest son was killed in a road accident. I lost my husband with lung cancer 2 years ago. I've only got the one son left, and he is registered blind. So he really will not be able to take care of me. Now what do? I've got my son who is registered blind, who lives quite close, but he won't be able to do anything for me. And he can't jump in a car and come and see me at a hospital or a hospice. We haven't even got a bus. So please think about this. Everybody's not in a town and sitting pretty with a family or willing to help. My son and I adore one another, but, I know what's coming. He knows what's coming. And we're just waiting. It's every day it's waiting. It's horrible. It's a nightmare. It's all you think about.
Have you talked to Macmillan?
I have talked to Macmillan. I've had counsellors, but what can they say? Oh dear, yes, it's terrible, and they try to. But what can anybody say? You've been given 3 months, and each day is a day nearer. And I just think I could do it myself if I knew what to take and how to take it. But I don't. And so there must be something like Dignitas here, that, where a proper doctor can just...
Well, there isn't. That's the problem. In that, and frankly, people, obviously British people do use Dignitas, but unless you've got a certain amount of money, that wouldn't be an option for the majority of people anyway. And it's cruel. It's cruel. It's not... I mean, I'm not saying that people who have money shouldn't be able to do that, but it is cruel that someone in your position, I mean, you're clearly not in a position, even if you wanted to go to Switzerland, I suspect you're not in a position to do so.
I couldn't do it. They wouldn't let me on a plane at the moment.
No, well, quite.
I've had it. So I'm waiting 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time, thinking. And every little ache, every little pain that you get, oh, is this it? Is this it? Is it somewhere else now? Am I going to stop breathing now? Yeah, it's horrible. I've got any idea what it feels like. My God, you can't. Nobody could imagine. I could never have done.
I mean, I'm not obviously going to ask you about your financial circumstances, but I mean, obviously, paying for a private nurse, if you had the means to do so, I guess that is something that at least when it gets to the point of being extremely difficult, you would have someone there with you all the time.
I have looked into this, and apparently it's sort of, to get a private nurse to come out here, you're looking at £25 an hour where we are. I mean, that's soon going to mount up, because soon I'm not going to be able to do anything. And I can't, my son, well, he can't do it. It's physical impossibility. He just wouldn't be able to do it. So it really is, it's awful. I don't want to go into a hospital. I want to be here. I want to be holding my son's hand and just have an injection, go to sleep. And that will be the end of all this misery and this pain and living on morphine. I mean, the first thing I have to do in the morning is reach for the morphine, and then I walk around all day with a bottle of liquid morphine, which you can take in between, for top-up. Just keep topping it up. Why? It's costing the National Health a fortune. It's stupid. I mean, I don't want to be here. If it was my dog, I would have had her put to sleep, as I did years ago when she was unwell. And I feel this is cruel, so cruel.